right, y'all, we're going to take a trip to the state of Oregon, where an article is going to pop up in a little bit. I know I've been absent a few days and there may be a few more absences, so I'm pretty much booked for the rest of 2024. And I'm okay with that because I do need to slow down with my online participation anyway. Take a detox. Okay. So by now the article is either about to pop up or it's popped up. So essentially, this DEI lawsuit pertains to people who I think use pronouns and they also identify as trans. And the person who is suing is saying that by hiring for merit rather than hiring for gender identity, that places of employment discriminate against people. I don't agree with this person. Okay, and this harassment could have well happened, so I don't want to gaslight them either. This is why in a regular workplace, I just call people by their name to avoid the whole issue with gender and pronouns these days. It's just the safest thing to do because whatever your name is on record, that is what the law sees you as also. So for me, that's the safe way to go. But as usual, you know what I like to tell y'all. I'm going to take this in a direction that no one sees coming, okay? But before I get into that, essentially her boss is saying the best person for the job is the person who should be put in the job, which hints at a meritocracy to a degree. But we know in certain jobs, no matter what, you want the best. Obviously, for those of you listening, if someone's going to take you into surgery, you want the best surgeon in the field to do it with many years of experience. That doesn't necessarily have to be a meritocracy, and I'll talk about that in a minute. When you are say, for example, working in the forest like these people do, because trees are unpredictable when they fall and they can maim and hurt, injure even unalive people. You do want the best person for the job, not based on features they were born with or identities that they assigned themselves. Right now, I'm not going to go into that rant. Again, before I go and say what I have to say, there's a possibility that due to these people's gender and the way they identify, that they really were targeted. So I'm not going to play into that. There are two things I'm going to say. One, I'm going to defend the people who identifies the gender and identity, but not for the reason y'all think. And then I'm going to defend the Oregon forestry. First, let me get into this. One thing that the people with identity said I agree with, because I know I'm all over the place, y'all. I've been tired, so I'm sorry. She talked about or he, she, or however they talked about, I'll say this, the person in lawsuit for the other people who use pronouns talked about a good old boy club. And we know this all happens, but we can argue that the good old boy club is also changed into other things. This person who put in the lawsuit is saying that people should not be hired by merit. And this is why the trans or whoever the pronouns who are suing are correct. Let me get this because this is going to sound nutty. Stop making yourselves believe that there is such thing as a meritocracy. A meritocracy merely covers up the who you know and not what you know. And what I mean is, some of you listening right now will go to work and work under somebody who's an absolute idiot. You know this person is not smart, but this person has what they have based on who they know and how they knew how to lightly network, or because they have longevity and kiss the right people's butt. Let's just be honest. Your meritocracy is something that's sold to you as a fairy tale to get you to believe that no matter how hard you work, your hard work will pay off. This is why when people say it now, I don't believe it. And even when I do hard work in the past few years on jobs and people try to give me certain types of incentives, I don't show any emotion by it. Because you're implying that a meritocracy is the reason I got it, even when society talks about a meritocracy but don't believe it. And don't lie to yourselves, okay? If it hasn't happened to you, you sit back and watch somebody time and time again who's the smartest person there, who can bring the most to the team, get rejected for promotions. But if a meritocracy existed, you were smart enough to know this person showed up on time, their meeting notes were on point, or they worked in a warehouse, they never had any accidents, they're the best forklift driver, or they are the best engineer. But they didn't kiss the right people's behind. A meritocracy is a fairy tale, okay? And if that upsets people, please get in the comments and explain to me how you think that works. So in that regard, the ones who are suing are correct. Additionally, a meritocracy is an excuse to say that somebody who's highly qualified and kissed somebody's butt deserved that job. Well, they already had the credentials anyway. No, that person just so happened to have the credentials and they kissed your behind and they're in your little cliques. See, the meritocracy that people talk about where you can work up never talks about workplace cliques and favoritism and nepotism. And how somebody's idiot relative can come in and because they have the last name of they have the name of the company stamped on it, they can either come straight from college or straight from nothing and work and be a problem for everybody else. Well, they had the background based on the family name, then they got in based on legacy and not on meritocracy. They got in based on their name. So let's stop with the fairy tale that the meritocracy is real. It's not. And if that upsets you all, I apologize in advance. Here's why I agree with the state of Oregon, okay? Forestry can be a very dangerous job, okay? Depending on you where you live, certain types of poisonous and venomous snakes know how to hide in shrubbery, and I don't think that there are too many poisonous or venomous snakes in Oregon. At least here in Washington, western diamondbacks live out in the Spokane Valley on the opposite side of the state. We don't really see the rattlesnakes on this side of the state often. If you get bit, it's most often a garter snake. There are bears, there are cougars, there are gray wolves. You have to contend with that in the forest initially when you're walking around. That's the least of your problems compared to falling trees and changing and unpredictable weather. When a tree falls on you, and please don't take this as any disrespect, that tree is not going to say, oh, you identify as this or this is your race. So I'm just going to fall in a different direction. And I'm not trying to be funny. This is one of those jobs where you have to have your wits about you. You have to have a certain type of body strength. You have to have a certain type of coordination, or you're going to be unalived, or other people are going to be unalived. A person can identify as something and be a certain race, which this is talking more about identity. So I'm just going to stick with that with the remainder of the video. You can identify as whatever you want to. When you step off in that forest and it's time to do the work and roll up your sleeves, then what? Because as I've said, when those trees are falling and when you have to take care of it, that kind of strenuous work doesn't care about your identity. You're going to sustain the same injuries as everyone else. And when it comes to identity, let's have a conversation about that. Are the people who you're saying are being overlooked because their identity, is it solely because of their identity, or is it because of their skills? Because you can be like me and have skills and not necessarily believe in a meritocracy. You can't in any form or fashion ask people to risk other people's lives based on your identity because you want people's identity to determine if they get a job. When you step off in that forest, you are miles away from emergency services. These are all things that have to be taken into account. Okay. This is one fine example of why you can't hide behind demographics in order to get people jobs, because you risk other people being hurt. I'm about to end this video, and I still stick with what I said. I agree with Oregon forestry, but this person or these people suing have a right to say that a meritocracy is BS, because that's what I took from it, because it is. I didn't link the article, so you all have to go look for it. I apologize for that in advance also. So I'll leave you all with this. No matter what, there are going to be occupations where you just need the best person to do that job. And you're going to need to put aside things that you were told to put certain tick marks. Because at the end of the day, especially with forestry, it's not just that person's identity in life that's in the hands of other people. You have other people who are around you working with you, lives in your hand. Tell me what y'all think about this article. Just the title alone or whatever you had to say. Thanks.